guest, Eric Schrader. Everybody say hello. Let's quickly go around the horn, and in terms of the round robin, when you say configuration management, what are you actually controlling? Go, Rob.
Yeah, so I think it's you're controlling product definition across the life cycle, so across time. So it's important that the product definition is high integrity, so everyone knows what you're building and at what stage.
Boom. Mr. Brion.
Yeah, so I'm Brion Carroll, CEO, Principal Consultant at Digital Solution Group. So configuration management, as Rob said, should be everything. It should be what it started out, a new product introduction, and how it went through its process. It had iterations, and that's configuration management, evolution. And then as it gets through to manufacturing or sourcing, that should be consistent. And if somebody changes something, a vendor or whatever, that should be applied. And as it goes down to MES and ERP and so on, in those instances, if there's any change that gets required because of a sourcing limitation or a factory limitation, then that should be rippled back into PLM. So configuration management should be the life cycle of that product configuration throughout its variant life.
Good summary. Mr. Brown.
So I would say that it's definitely about controlling the definition of the product from design, hopefully all the way through the service asset. But I think the should be is a little bit different depending on the scenario, right? I mean, you have to look at the difference between a fighter jet where you're looking at, configuration management by tail number and managing every little bit versus a consumer product like a washing machine, right? And so the should be is very different for each of those scenarios.
Right, it's going to change quite a lot depending on that. Oleg?
Yes, so I'm Oleg Shilovitsky, and CEO co-founder of OpenBOM. For me, configuration management is the product data on the record. So what we have on the record, what is recorded, has history, and can be controlled. This is for me the configuration management. I still for all these years don't know why someone called the use word configuration for this, but configuration management, it's all the data on the record that we have.
Awesome. And Mr. Eric Schrader, our special guest from Propel.
I look at it as the complete product truth. So item identity, revision, structure, quality state, and even commercial definition connected in one record, not files, not documents, just the product.
Wow, that was the most succinct of the five. That's great. Okay, so I'll throw this one open. Anybody can grab it, and let's do 2 minutes on what is the most common false belief companies have about CM. Who wants to go first?
I can go.
Go ahead, Brion.
So I think the false belief is that it's accurate. I hate to say this, but the fact is, you got PLM, you've got ERP, you've got sourcing, you've got MES, and all these systems have a variant of what the bill of material is. And if you don't have upstream and downstream intimation, which I call intelligently integrated, right? Not just push it, but intimate it, then you can have variances that one version of the truth, there is no version of the truth. Because by the time it goes everywhere, it's been changed so many times that what it originally was, it's like the whisper around to each individual in a room. By the time it comes back to you, you said, "Can you pass me the water?" And by the time it gets back to you, it says, "You killed your little brother." And it's really kind of like a weird transformation. But I think that's the thing, is they believe it's true when actually it's not.
Okay, so it's sort of the closest source of truth and single source of change, like Mr. Hushman would say.
Yeah, right.
Oleg, you wanted to raise your hand too.
Yes, for me, the story of configuration management is like we are running out of words. That's why we use the word configuration. And many people jumping on this and saying, it's about product configurations. And this is where you start. So this is like the entire story of me around this configuration management is always like how your configuration management is managing my configurations. There you go. That's in my eyes the confusion and problem about this.
Somebody else got one?
Yeah, I think I was next in the hands queue. So I think the one of the biggest false beliefs is that it's a burden or that it's administrative, it's bureaucratic. And you see this a lot with the Postman Martin, where he talks about a lot about the perception of CM. However, it's actually a business performance enhancer.
Interesting. Eric, I think you wanted to speak.
I was going to say, I think a common false belief is that the right methodology will save you. It won't. Rigorous CM processes also often have the most chaos because of either poor rigor or manual process that people aren't using. So I think the enemy is non-adoption. I think not the perfect methodology.
Thanks, Eric. And Jim, you had a last comment.
Yeah, I mean, I think mine is one size does not fit all. I mean, configuration management means a lot of different things to different people, and I think that for some people, you just need to have tight control from getting engineering to manufacturing, or especially if it's outsourced manufacturing. But so many companies are waking up to the potential in the service life cycle and really staying with their product and making money on the back end. And in that case, you need to really connect it out to SLM. So that, I think it's just a very different thing depending on your business needs. So one size does not fit all.
So let me segue on exactly that comment. Thank you, Jim, to the next section, which is more on like the object model, right? When we're trying to model this in our PLM, in our MES, in our ERP, our system, obviously this group is going to be favoring the PLM vision of the world. What is the minimum set of primitives for doing configuration management? Item identity, configuration rules, effectivity baseline, traceability. I mean, what's like the minimum that almost every industry we're going to touch is gonna need? Anybody want to grab that one first? Go ahead, Brian.
So you put out a list, and I like the list. Item identity, configuration rules, effectivity baseline, as-built traceability. It depends on, as Jim brought up, what you're trying to manage. If you're trying to manage the clothing, then there's a little more looseness
and all that stuff.
on what happens, because you're outsourcing the manufacturing in most cases. But if you're doing something that enjoins you with manufacturing, then all the aspects of the configuration, even the rules by which a change variant can be applied, or how that data gets conformed to fit manufacturing, and that coming back up as something that is, a purchasable thing during, like grease or machine oil, right? So I think all those things that you mentioned are required if they apply to, as Jim brought up, the business that you're running.
Rob, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so in terms of MVP, I think there's things that people always associate with configuration management, like effectivity and baselining. But ultimately, I think Eric touched on this earlier on when he talked about the methodology. You actually need, like PLM, you need people, the culture, the the human component of this. You need the technology component of this in terms of where does the data exist and how you're capturing it. You need the workflows and the processes associated with it, and then obviously the data itself. So it's the usual kind of holistic challenge that we see with PLM too.
Great. Anybody else want to jump in, or should I move on to the next part of this one? Go ahead, Jim.
I'll sort of jump on to what Rob said. I think data governance. I think you need to have processes. You need to understand what you're doing, but you also need to understand the data across the spectrum of the systems that you're using and how things fit in. What a revision means and what an effectivity date means in engineering versus what it's going to mean in your ERP versus what it's going to mean in when you dispatch it to MES can be very different. So I think that in addition to the people and process, you need to really understand how the data flows across.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot of industry specific stuff here, right? Whether you're doing engineered order or built to stock or configured order or anything in process industries is going to be quite variable. That said, where should it live? Like, should it live on the BOM, inside the part? Should it live inside the BOM structure? Is it just live in the rules? Does it live just in the requirement management system or the software feature flags? It's just kind of all over the place, right? That's one of the issues that makes it kind of an ugly, sticky, messy, hard to control kind of monster, right? Sort of a big octopus. It ends up touching almost everything in the system somehow.
So I'd like to just note that I think any system, we call them silo systems like PLM, ERP, e-commerce, whatever. All of those that have an effect to need to see the configuration have right to be configuration management delivered, right? So if you're manufacturing something, the configuration should go into your ERP system and based on the line structure, your MES, right? If you're outsourcing manufacturing, they may just need top level assembly or content like fabric if you're doing garments. So it just has to go wherever the visibility of that configuration is necessary for that silo system to function.
I would jump and say that whatever can be on the record, and I agree with Brian. Like whatever on the record, we can store this information, and this information formally represents the product. That's where it will be storing. And if it's a document management system, like some companies do, and if it's PLM system, it's any other system, where the system will be on the record, it will give you configuration item and baseline, it will be fine.
Yeah, I would add to that basically that it's everywhere that it's needed, but anchored by one item identity. I think, you know, it's a bit of a mistake to make BOM the configuration, you know, kind of the configuration truth. But I think that feature flags and software versions are now configuration items too. So if CM can handle that, you know, a firmware version, then there's a gap, right? And so I think we're having it challenged by how whole product is defined across mechanical, electrical, and now software. And I think that is a challenge in CM.
Yeah, let me just jump in, Eric. You said if software can't find its way into a mechanical BOM, then we have a problem, right? And that's where I think you said that the firmware.
Well, I just said that there's now feature flags and software versions that are configuration items, and those aren't necessarily always handled in a change order and in a revision. Sometimes they're handled and expressed in a specific instance that the customer has, right? So it is a more complex problem as you add in kind of the complexities of software, over the air updates, you know, feature flags that you can turn on and off. These are all they all go into kind of system design, but also you know, kind of make it a bit more complex from a CM perspective.
So let me just add one thing, Michael. I want to bring Jim and Eric together. Jim was talking about as serviced, right? Service BOM. And the more we get into SaaS regulating what's going on in a delivered product, like a lawnmower or a car, and the firmware needs to be downloaded to update it on this car, but not that car, blah, 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 that software should find its way into the as service configuration management side. If it does, then what you're talking about begins to fall away as an issue and become more amalgamated, right? Combined as a solution, right? You would think.
Sure, if your system can handle that, right? So
yeah.
if your process
Great, gotcha.
Yeah.
So
I think what we're doing is we're talking about what is and then what should be, right? So sometimes we need to make clear it's the to be we're talking about, which many people don't have, and the as is what they're struggling with, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And
Rob, you wanted to get a word in?
yeah.
Sorry.
Do we all agree that let's say the lens or the view of configuration shifts over time according to where we are in the life cycle, so that, you know, when, for example, the development is done and the manufacturing is running and the products are in field, then the focus is more about what's the configuration of the products in the field, so that there's, you know, kind of peaks of fidelity where you need to be really, really accurate at every stage. And for example, while you're doing your engineering, maybe the manufacturing definition doesn't have to be absolutely perfect because you're not there yet. However, when you get to there, you do need to be bang on.
I'm going to change that to the next section because we're a quarter of the way in and we still got 4 sections. let's talk about variance options and effectivity, sort of the core, the DNA of configuration management. Round robin, what's the hardest configuration management problem in the real world? Is it options? Is it effectivity, alternates and substitutes, supplier changes, or software and firmware, which we just talked about a second ago? Thank you, Brian. Rapid fire. So why don't we go? We go the other way. Eric, and then Oleg, and then Jim, and then Brian and Rob. We'll go because that's how my screen ended up. So go ahead, Eric. What's for you? What's the hardest one?
I mean, I think PDM certainly answers, what files exist and who has the latest. And CM is really about what's the approved product definition, right? And when is it valid?
The effectivity.
I think the variant management is which configuration is right for a specific customer, the market, or an order. So I think that's a slightly different question. And I think, most companies have PDM, some have CM, almost none have variant management in the context of both. And that's where BOM chaos, I think, actually lives.
Ooh, someone got the title of the podcast.
Oh, you get extra points for that, don't you?
He definitely gets extra points. Good job. Oleg.
Yes, I think the biggest challenge is discrepancy between different structures and the definitions of the product, and we're coming from the three directions here. Engineering is simple. If I have revision A, I know what is included and the structure level. Now, with manufacturing, is getting more complex because if this is a date, but I'm still using the previous revision, and this is where all the place of effectivity. Now, when we go into variants, it's getting more messy because sometimes the variant effectivity use the same words. This is where people are getting like it's a unit effectivity, it's variant effectivity, it's data effectivity. But then it comes to variants, and we say there's different configurations of the product. So some people use variants. Now, you cannot definitely say what is included because you can have configured structure and you can have a resolved structure. I think all these things together enough to create chaos. So you have to use word chaos. I think when you're trying to put them all together, you're getting chaos.
Jim.
It's just chaos. I mean, that's all.
Why are you on this call, man? Come on.
I don't know.
Someone need to manage it.
I think the key thing is actually people. And all of the issues that everybody bringing up are true, right? I mean, there's the software, mechanical, electrical. Eric, I love that you brought up like the actual in-use configuration switches, like feature switches and stuff like that. It's gotten incredibly more complex. But as it's done that, you got so many different domains that are responsible. You've got a service domain, you've got different engineering disciplines, and then on the back end now, as Eric, you start talking about that's sales, right? That's somebody subscribing to a service, and all of a sudden you've got sort of a sales-oriented CRM, ERP system that's involved in it. And so trying to get those people to all align on doing something the right way. And not owning their part of it, and having it expand. I think it's the carbon, not the silicon.
Nice. That's a good quotable. That'll show up on my viral quotable.
And it's chaos.
That's bookends. You just bookend.
You're getting what you ask for, Michael.
Brian,
So
keep it short. Keep it short.
So it's about a 20-minute statement I want to make.
Oh,
So I hope you can handle it. No, I'm kidding. So the thing is, I think it all depends on the PLM and ERP system and so on that you have. We've talked about in prior sessions that overloading the link is a way in which to exclude or include a parent-child relationship, right? So if you're able to do variances in PLM associated by CAD, even variance could even include, it could include color, it could include location, channel, anything, effectivity, right? If you're able to do that, then all of these, depending on who you are looking at it, whether you're I'm the ERP person, or I'm the supply chain management person, or I'm the sales configuration management person, any of them would have the ease of being able to look at what is their content and ignore all other content. So if that exists within the PLM system, then none of these become issues. If it doesn't exist, then depending on what it is, I'd say variance, especially by channel, would be the hardest to maintain. of all those things you just brought up.
Rob.
Yeah, I think effectivity is a really big challenge, depending on which industry you're in, whether it's washing machines or fighter jets. But I think the real challenge is status accounting for products that need to be managed and serviced for many, many years, especially where you haven't maybe had the technology all those years ago to document what's on the product. So you have, battleships coming back into be maintained, and they don't even know what's on there. And so you have to spend 2 years, first of all, understanding what the product is before you can even then think about, making repairs and overhauling it. So I think, and whether it's wind turbines or cars, cars, it doesn't matter so much, if you change the tires, but there's certainly, things that do need to be controlled. And, maintenance people aren't incentivized by, properly documenting the changes they make. Then, in the case of defense, they've got bombs flying over their heads, and they just need to get this thing back on the ground and fighting again. So they're not going to fill out forms to say what they've swapped.
Okay, I want to try something different. I want to have a mini debate, 2 minutes max. Let's just say Rob and Jim on effectivity. Should you do effectivity date-based, lot-based, unit asset-based? Boom, 2 minutes. Who wants to go first?
All right, Rob, you start and I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Go for it. 30 seconds for Rob, starting now. Go.
Yeah, so I think it has to be a business-based decision based on the type of products that you're manufacturing and the types of costs involved. So, and the sensitivity. So, for example, if you need to use up the stock in all the places where it's being used, you probably want to then make it about the production cut-in point. I don't think dates ever work, and in most cases, I think, especially where you're tracking the assets, then it has to be serialized. That's my perspective.
Jim, your rebuttal.
Yeah, you made it hard to argue with you, Rob, but I would say that
I tried to cover as many bases as I could.
I know, exactly. No, I think dates are, but I'm going to pick on the one thing. I think dates are important. I think that they're just a guideline. I think you need to think about when you're going to try and cut in a change. Understanding when you may want to, because not all changes are quality issues, right? Some of them are actually introducing new features. So I think the date is a good place to start. But as you said, for the business is going to drive. If it's safety critical, you're going to do it right away. You're not going to care about the inventory implications of it, right? If it's if it's something that's either a minor enhancement or a minor defect or something like that, hey, you know what? You're gonna push that out, at a time where it's low risk. The supply chain can catch up. You can use up your inventory and that sort of thing. So it's got to be just a collaborative decision. But I do think data is important as a starting point, especially if it's a feature.
Okay, let's do the same thing this time between Eric and Oleg.
Oh, you didn't get a rebuttal. That's good.
No, we're gonna move on because we got to keep it moving. Between.
I'll be happy to start. I mean, I would say that.
No, but I was going to give you a different question.
I was going to give you the question.
Oh,
I'm going to give you the question. So So you guys got to debate, and it was a great debate. I mean, there was a lot of good input. So now between Eric and Oleg, it's going to be on configuration rules. Do you go with 150% BOM, explicit variant BOMs, or model-based approaches? Model-based engineering, whatever. Which configuration rules do you prefer? Go, Eric.
I mean, I think the 150% BOM plus rules approach is it's pretty powerful in theory, but in maintenance, it's basically a nightmare from a practice perspective. The rules drift and nobody owns them. And in 2 years, the rules engine says, here's what the product is valid. And then the shop floor knows that it can't be built that way. Right. So I think tying the variants to commercial SKUs is a way to align a commercial team and an engineering team with what is being sold. And I think if you can do that, that helps prevent chaos.
Oh, good one. Oleg, this could be a tough one to debate, but I'm sure you can do it.
No,
All those gray hairs.
It's actually very simple to debate. First of all, I don't think there is a right or wrong. Second, it reminded me the old debates about first, second, and the third normal forms in databases. And which one is right? Oh, you can go to third normal form, but then you will have a nightmare in everything else. And then you can duplicate your data, and then you go with some other data modeling approaches, and it will work fast. So which is the right one? You go based on what your data is, how you want to configure, and how do you want to maintain. If you will go away with the options, sure, great. If you go away with 150%, great. If you need rules, you need rules. Just only remember what Albert Einstein said. You need make things simple, but not simpler. So I don't know if it was a
That's a
debate
good
or
one.
agreement, but that's what I think it is.
Let's talk about digital thread reality. So if we talk about configuration management across the thread, you started touching on it because you mentioned duplication, because there is this problem that we're duplicating the universe across CMMS, PLM, ERP, MES. We've got tons of copies all over the place. So what do you think is the cleanest handshake we can do between these different systems that are always going to exist, so that we don't end up with several copies of the truth, so we end up with a single source of change? Brian?
So passing data from PLM to, say, ERP, there is core key data that is identical. It should remain identical as it goes into ERP. And ERP has its own need for data for it to operate and function in the way that it wants. Same thing with PIM, where it outputs to e-com or to big box stores or wherever, or supply chain management if you're trying to regulate purchasing or trying to get around tariffs or whatever you try to do. So the data, there's a core set of data that's always the same. And I think Oleg brought up this thing, product memory, which I really like, because it becomes the instance of data that is from all these systems aggregated correctly so that you can put AI on it. That kind of form is, if you're sending it to ERP, there's a core set of data, then let it add what it wants. If you're sending it to CMS or some other place, there's a core set of data plus whatever they add. And so it really isn't a lot of repeat data, but it's aggregated together. It's a whole group of data. And the key question is, if you were to take that data like ERP and CMS and PIM and whatever, how much unique data would you really want or need to put into product memory so that overall you show the life cycle of a product as it goes everywhere and are managing that change? That's a minute, 30 seconds.
Who's up next?
I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
When you've got a left to right flow, when it goes in that direction, it's not too bad, because you're kind of cascading information, and like I say, the focus will shift and the fidelity will shift. I think when you are, whether it's making changes, etc., launching new features, continually updating product, then you need really, really robust control. But ultimately, the baseline is the product data model that you've all agreed, and you say, we know what information has to exist where, in which systems, etc. And then it's just about making sure that you're not just doing change control to the product itself, but also to make sure that the information flows to all the different places in the organization where it needs to.
Nice. Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah,
I would add
jump.
this. Go ahead, Oleg.
I think Brian hit a very important point, is related to identifications. I think systems can go out of sync, but if you focus on identification, that will prevent it. I will give you one just simple example. One day we got a customer that came to us and said, why you cannot do bill of materials? I said, because you don't have part numbers. He said, but my CAD system can work without part numbers. Why do you need it? Everything called part one. He said, the CAD system can work with this. I mean, great for CAD system, but we cannot do anything without this. Like, that's the point. So you need to identify things, then they can go connected. If you don't have it, eventually things will be disconnected.
So when we talk about this, also we always have this idea of the different phases, right? As you go from as designed to as planned to as built to as maintained. Anybody want to pick? Let's get one of each of you to pick the to defend as designed, as planned, as built, as maintained, and then let's talk about which is the most fragile and what should the industry standardize on. Who wants to take as built?
It's a chaos. No.
No, who wants to do as designed? Sorry, we'll start with as designed. Is that more of a
Would
Rob
it be
one
as
or more of
planned?
a Jim
Isn't
one?
as planned, then as designed, then as built, then as maintained? Isn't as planned first?
Well, as
No, it's
planned
as
is
designed
ambiguous
first.
because there should be actually as
Required.
required. Exactly, there should have been
Yes, okay.
required in the front. Anybody want to pick up on that? To just I thought that would be fun to have each person.
I'll take as required. I'll take the first
Okay.
one, and then somebody take the second one and the third, and then somebody else
Okay,
is
go.
gonna
I'll take
Go
the
for it.
first on the back end.
chaos.
Go. 30
Okay,
seconds.
so as required really is something that has to take in the normalcy and the activity of what is applied to the kind of products they build. If it's a motor, like the fan above my head, hey, yo, that fan, Hunter fan, that has a certain motor size, a certain blade size, and housing and material type. So as required should, as best it can, comply with what may be derivable from what a company already has or already exists within the part structures or sub-assembly structures of what a company already has. So that's as required. Ding. Next,
As built. Was that you, Jim, or is that Rob?
as designed.
As designed. Sorry. Nobody wants to pick up?
No, I can think as design, it's not a problem at all. I mean, this is how engineers see the system design. So that's the structure.
Well, that
I'm
was
not sure
that,
your
that
as
was
designed
that
complied
was
with mine
very
as required. Really having a hard time finding that as designed and fitting with my as required.
So I guess between the two of those, you've got your model-based system engineering that should be the digital thread
should.
between them, right? You should be
Yes.
able to go from requirement, logical, physical, functional, logical, physical to get that.
That's a different one, Michael, I think. It's not this required design engineering manufacturing, right?
Right, but I'm saying that if you're using an MBSE approach, you get the requirements flow into the design, right? The design is the functional, logical, physical piece, in my opinion. And then you go up the other side of the V, which is the as planned for the process planning, and then as produced, right? When you build it, because there's actually a lively debate in the comments, and our friend Patrick, our panelist most of the time, is saying remember manufacturing planning, and I think that's how, when I think of as planned, I think of that.
Right.
I think you need to look at it. I mean, the other, model-based, you have to think about model-based enterprise, right? It's not just about the design. It really is that life cycle. And how do you take that information and, expand it down the life cycle, but then open it up for change, right? And I think that the further away you get from engineering, the harder it is to keep data under control. And I love the example of, I think it was Rob, they said, you got missiles going off above your head, you're probably not filling out that service form, but that's true everywhere. When you get to as maintained, a lot of that information is still on paper, right? A lot of it is service tickets that people are supposed to put in at the end of their shift and that sort of thing. And, as companies are trying to eke money out of that service life cycle, there's a lot of value and a lot of potential of fixing that as maintained, but I do think it's the hardest. It's chaos, Mike.
I do see the hands up. I just wanted to throw in that I think that's one of the reasons that data and IT have to be separated organizationally. Because if it's IT, then it's going to be PLM owns it. No. ERP owns it. No. It's not about the data anymore. It's just about ownership and power. But if you're just talking about data, and if each organization has a data custodian and a data owner that's making sure that the data is flowing and it doesn't end up piled on a desk, as you were saying, Jim, then I think that goes a long way to fixing that. Sorry.
The biggest challenge in this. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
The
I think
biggest challenge
Rob
in the
has his
system
hand
is to
up, and
connect
then
them.
Oleg, and then Brian.
Okay, so go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
This has all got a bit chaotic. Where are we now, Michael? What is it we're doing?
We were talking about the as design stuff, and we had like one more minute to wrap that up, and then we're going to go on to the future of configuration management.
Okay, so it's am I picking as produced then? And
you'd be as built. You're in the manufacturing side already.
Yeah, so as built, and I'm saying why it's the most important, or
yeah.
Anyway, So it's the most important because everything else up until then has been a dream. It's a fantasy. It's a desire. It's an aspiration. But until you actually make it, that's when physical things come together, and that's when you see the magic of the product coming into the real world and either functioning in the way you thought it would do or not. These products are going to go out to customers. So that is the most important phase for configuration.
And Eric, you want to pick up the as service?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jim that the as built to as maintained is the most fragile, and that as maintained is it's not really under governance. It's that field asset record that can be changed over the course of time, and so as we think about how to kind of control that, it's understanding what updates have been done over the course of time at a specific you know serialized number of product that's out in the field, and then how that can be linked back to the product definition so that it can be understood. So that is, I think, where it's a fragile transition because you're starting to lose control. But if you can manage that work order process from a service perspective, that's where, as Jim was pointing out, more and more product companies are getting most of their revenue post initial PO, and this understanding this service problem from a configuration perspective and maintenance perspective, and like how impact of current designs is going to ripple out to your customer is kind of a key problem to solve. But it is, I think, the most challenging.
Awesome.
So Michael, I just want to bring up a point since we've gone around the horn and we've gotten into as service. Data governance, I think, is the organization that you were talking about that owns the data, right? And I think, let's go back to requirements. I require that it be A, B, C, D, E based on what's reasonable. If it does not, to Rob's point, it doesn't run at a certain speed, then that requirement was not met, which means you should send that back and say uncheck because it didn't work, which would tell the requirements world, don't ask for it again, or you're going to get the same answer, as the definition of stupid is doing the same thing twice for the same reason, expecting different results. So if it bounces up and down, data governance being the organization, if it goes from what Eric was talking about through to what Jim was talking about, to what Oleg was talking about, to what Rob was talking about, to what I'm talking about, then data consistency, data governance, maintains the accuracy of that content to the level possible in the system it's coming from or going to.
Great. Oleg, you go ahead.
Yes,
You had a statement.
I think the biggest challenge here, that's where I think I disagree with the question. I think there is not a question of what is more complex, because every organization or person or responsible can organize structure in the way they want. And this is where it all comes, like who wants requirements, organize them, who wants engineering, organize them, who wants maintenance to organize. Whereas the problem is when you need to connect them together. And this is where it hits the nerve, because everyone is trying to put it in the same Excel and it doesn't fit. So, and this is where a chaos starts, because, and this is the thing that I see a lot recently, is because companies are starting as a services and not selling product, but selling services. Maintenance is becoming extremely important for all of them. And I see how people struggling to connect the engineering and maintenance. And it's really, really, really becoming hard for them, because they want to say, I have this tail of my whatever they produce or whatever serial number. And I want to understand what is inside, and I'm installing updates there, and I'm doing maintenance, and I put software there. All these things can start to get connected together. This is where it starts to hit hard everyone. And not like, I can make my Excel of everything, but start connecting, it's very hard.
Well, let's talk about connections and talk about the future of configuration management. We've added Eric on because I think I give Propel credit for having been the first agentic PLM to at least to announce, right, back in March of 2025, if my memory serves. So how, Eric, have you looked at that in terms of, I know you're leveraging the agentic platform of Salesforce called Agentforce, and how are you using this modern approach to using agents in order to resolve some of these issues? I mean, I just want to understand how that worked.
I mean, I think a great example can be kind of change impact analysis. So having AI basically scan your entire BOM to understand all of the open quality issues, any sort of supply chain data, and surface those things so that and understand that this change is going to affect 47 downstream assemblies, or what active customer orders it might impact. So this is where I think AI can really help us. And so the engineer doesn't even have to ask, but can take these elements into consideration on cost of change and making the best decision for the company. So I think that's a great example of where I think AI can be used from a configuration management perspective, is to essentially inform and look around the corner, because it is a mountain of data that needs to be processed when you're trying to affect any sort of change.
I know you've got your hands raised up. I wanted to ask Oleg, because Oleg also has a product called OpenBOM, and he's made some AI announcements as well. How is OpenBOM using AI to resolve some of these issues that we've just talked about in configuration management?
Again, Michael, I probably will disagree with the question, but let me just bring a little bit history. I mean, the AI is just technology. So like 30 years ago, we got the scale databases that were brought with the same idea, make analysis of impact and data and connections and everything. And today we say AI can magically do it. I mean, AI can do something that relational database cannot do. And there are a bunch of technologies in between that were doing different things, some of them different way. So I think the real thing is not if we have a magic technology, if we can make a data adapted to technology and work to fulfill the needs so technology can work with the data. Let's put it this way, AI is amazing technology, but if you cannot tokenize your data, your AI is pointless. Now, if you can dump all your BOMs in the text file, but you won't understand the relationships, the AI scanning these text files will give you nothing. Besides, it will hallucinate and will tell you very confidently that something that you will have to disagree. So will AI solve this problem? Oh yeah, if you will structure the data, so AI will understand it, and you will create a model that will be able to fulfill it, then yes. Will it be possible to do it? And this is where the key, okay? So
plus one to Oleg on this one, because I think that data governance is a big part of getting the right answer out of any sort of agentic work that you do. And so, I mean, this topic feeds right into readiness from an AI perspective for a lot of companies, I think.
Yep, we had Brian and Jim that had their hands up.
So I'm gonna jump back in on the product memory just for a second. I'm starting my little stopwatch here. And so AI, as Eric brought up, to kind of go through and look for oops, and report those alerts so that people can take action. That's a very important thing, right? So it is Oleg said, depending on the structure of the data, can AI actually traverse it and find things that have cause and effect relationships? But one of the things that I see AI agents doing in the CM world is, as people are doing things, as they're having ECR meetings, or as they're doing things in relationship to email back and forth or messaging back and forth, or even on a phone call that can be transcribed, this data being brought into both PLM, and as it makes value product memory, when we talk about product memory as this area of the world that anything can go in and AI can lay on it, those agents can come right out of this product memory pool and go into ERP, PLM, PIM, and so on, and pull data as it's actually delivered, affected, and put it into product memory, so that in the end, AI and product memory and all of your silo systems are all working in a cooperative way.
Well, in the same graph, right?
I saw a thumbs up, bro. telling you
from
right now,
Oleg.
I saw it. It was a response by those
Jim?
out there.
Your turn.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think a lot of what our data is showing right now is in terms of AI, the value is coming in keeping it simple. There's definitely room for agentics. There's definitely room for a lot of other things. But some of the low-hanging fruit around configuration management is being able to pull that information together across the different systems and across the different stages of a life cycle. And I think that's where if you can find information, consolidate it, and look for errors and inconsistencies, that might be an easy place to start. I've got an answer for what does it look like, 5-10 years down the road that's very different. But right now, I think just being able to pull data, put it in one place together, so you can identify errors is a big issue.
I think on our list for this call, we had configuration classification part normalization. Nobody mentioned that yet. Option compatibility checks. We didn't mention that either. Configuration validity auditing. That's sort of what Eric said, right? Impact prediction. It was also one Eric mentioned. And then automated baselining reconciliation between systems. That's the one you just talked about, Jim. So anybody want to mention the other two?
So Mike, I'd like to have part classification just for a second. People talk about smart numbering, and I know Oleg, with all due respect, he talks about intelligent part numbering, but I think that part classification is one of the most powerful ways to make it so that you can find what you've done. You can find based on characteristics, and you can only do so much with numbering that gets you to the point where it's not an 85-digit number, like a VIN of a car, right? And so part classification allows you the ability to search for and to respond back with and to find data about parts, subassemblies, and top-level assemblies based on characteristics, not based on a number structure. So I just want to put that out there. It's out there in the field, the abyss. People hear part classification is good. Part numbering is not. There. So we're done.
Anybody? Rob, you haven't talked in a while. You're usually quite loquacious by this point. So when you
loquacious, that's a good word. Good word.
Jump in here?
No, I'm all good. I think we've talked a lot about the different use cases within configuration management. Yeah, it's all good. We've got 10 minutes left, and I know there's a lot of questions in the chat as well. So I want to make sure we have time to engage with the listeners.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of discussion about part numbering and data effectivity. People agreeing with Rob that doesn't work. But there was one question about MCPs, which makes me want to ask, in the last 10 minutes, and it gives you guys each, all five of you, at least a minute to expose on it. Like when, in terms of, we had the OpenAI moment, right? In November 2022, you suddenly had this incredible chat-based AI people, even your grandma could write down and create a purple elephant if she wanted to, right? Because it was just writing text. It was a pivotal moment. It was another, it was a tipping point. It was a tipping point for AI. When will we have a tipping point for PLM and configuration management? Is it coming? Are we there? Is it 10 years away? We'll go through each of us. We'll get like 1 minute each. Who wants to start? Brian, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to say that, and I've been tipping on it, grandma being able to talk to an LLM and get an answer back so that she doesn't feel lonely is really good. So that's going to be what we classify as the standard, non-industrial market, right? LLMs being able to keep people company or go to dinner with somebody. It's really weird, but nevertheless, that's happening. I think that if we can move on as industry leaders, this product memory profile, where we have a meta layer language that says, if I'm storing stuff like with Eric's agents running around all over the place, I'm storing stuff in product memory, then it should follow some norm. Like what are key values in the JSON structure or whatever, right? If we can do that, then I think by 2027, we'll have selective companies that have the vision to move forward with a product memory environment that is a collection of all things coming of relevant value from each one of these silo systems so that AI can create an aggregative business insight based on this profile data. So that's 1 minute, 7 seconds.
Thank you for that precision.
I'm timing me, man. I'm timing me.
Oleg is up next, I think. He had his hand up, and then Rob, and then Jim, and then Eric, our special.
Yeah, I think there are two things, and I will start probably with your question about ChatGPT. I mean, what happened with ChatGPT? Simplicity hit the nerve. People can do something simple. You said grandma can do it. Yeah. So an average grandma cannot do configuration management. It's just way too complex. So cannot do it. So when we will be able to deliver simplicity, and the data is a complex. Like we cannot. I'm pretty sure we agree that the data is complex. So when we will be able to achieve the simplicity moment, then the adoption will come. Complexity has a very tough time to win in this world. And as many times as we explained that you cannot type on the phone without buttons, and everyone believed into this and keep doing buttons, it was nice, but for a very small group of people. And the moment of time we deliver the tapping on the screen, the problem was solved. So the same is here. Once we will be able, and I promise not to do marketing, so I will not. So once we will be able to achieve a simplicity of Excel, then people will start using it exactly like people started to use ChatGPT because it was simple. And before that, we got like 20 years of artificial intelligence that everyone was trying to understand what it's about and distant from this conversation. They said, I'm not as smart as to participate in this conversation. So simplicity will win.
Rob.
So, like you saw Professor Patrick's comments recently. Why are we having the same conversations for the last 20 years? I talked to, you've seen the post from like Chad Jackson recently about the research he's done, where he said it's, it's not technology, it's the people. Neither are. I spoke to her early on today. She's pulling her hair out and saying, I can't believe we're still having the conversation around, like org change management, and why are we not, figured out how to implement technology. And so it really, for me, it's not about the technology, it's about the people. But as we've seen, no one's yet come up with a solution for how to solve the people part of the equation yet either. And humans have proved that we've evolved, but we haven't evolved the human behavior that has been embedded for all these years, and we're still behaving in very individualistic ways. And so I think it's doesn't matter how much AI you're going to throw at this, but you need human change, and human change is, we haven't yet figured out how to make that happen.
Jim.
So Rob, you never watched Terminator. There's a way to solve the whole people. And actually, it kind of ties into what I'm going to say. Nice. One of the things that I think is, and I don't know, it's 5 years, but one of the tipping points I see is right now we've got all of these companies with big databases trying to track a product and understand what a product, especially once it's out in the field, is doing. And you've got multiple systems, and then this company gets acquired by this other system. So somehow for this product that's running around, my car or whatever it is, that's running out in the real world, all of the data is sitting in all of these different places: manufacturer, service people, whoever sold it, a dealer, that kind of thing. Here's my thought. Give the product itself information and agency. So there's an agent on the product, probably multiple agents, and that agent is looking out for the product. Maybe we're getting into a little too much Terminator, but the car knows when it needs to be serviced, and it knows its own configuration. Whether you can look it up in any combination of systems, the product knows, the asset knows, and asks for a service appointment and orders the right part, orders the right download. So that to me, if you want to look at the ChatGPT moment, I think that's the moment where you're going to say, all right, we're not trying to keep information all around the outside and everywhere. We're putting the information, giving intelligence and agency to the product itself.
Yeah, unless you're changing a tire, I'm not sure it's going to be able to change its own tire. But
well, that's why you got the Terminator robot in the trunk.
Oh, Terminator trunk. I got you. That's the new option. Eric.
I mean, I will maybe take it slightly different. I think that now, I think the win is now. I think the how is maybe more as a consumer. So I think a lot of this information needs to get to 10 times as many people as govern the data. And so I think when you think about CM and making some of this data available, it's really needed across the enterprise. And so I think it's now where you can make information available in a chat interface, through a Slack interface, through a Teams interface that says, what's the configuration, what's the active configuration that I need to worry about now, so that you can. And so I think I would say now from a consumer perspective and from a consumption of CM perspective. So I think that's really here now. I think it is we talked a little bit about kind of all the other things that AI can do from a CM perspective, and I think those are on the precipice as well. But I think we should think about it as like making it simple for your mom to do the purple elephant. It's making it simple for the rest of the organization to understand what is the active product, what is the product, and in a point in time. And I think that is achievable.
So actually, it's interesting because I remember at Prove It on the manufacturing side, it was all about contextualizing the data coming off the PLCs, and really we're talking about the moment is when we get all that context that's brought into whatever we're working on without having to explicitly say what life cycle phase I'm working on. It should just be able to give me the context, right?
Right.
That's sort of what you're saying here.
The challenge
Yeah, we
with
got
that
2
is
more minutes, so I
you-
think you had a couple more people. Go ahead, Rob.
Just to interject, I think the thing is you often need complexity in order to create simplicity, and so I think that's the challenge.
Brian, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I think to Eric's point, you should see the product as per your viewpoint. So if I'm a customer and I have a serialized part or a serialized car, I will see that assembly if you show that per my perspective. But if I'm in manufacturing and I have serialized parts and serialized products coming off the line, I should see what is the effective bill of material. If I'm in engineering, I should see what is the engineered material, bill of material. So that goes back to the viewing of a bill of material with effectivity on the relationship between the parent and child, which I call overloading the link, right? Characterizing those links as traverse me when the following is true. You want to see what's in this serialized part. You want to see what's in this this source factory. You want to see whatever, right? So I think serializing is one thing, but the key is allowing the viewer to view through that lens that's characterized by the relationship between the parent and the child.
Thanks, Brian. Any parting comments? I've
47
just got one thing to
seconds.
say, but I want to give space to Brian. Jim, Eric, and Oleg.
I
would just
think
say
the question
data
about what is
governance,
active was really confusing here, because what is active for me, it's an engineer, is different. What is active for me is in maintenance.
Exactly.
Yeah, the context again. Jim.
Yeah, no, I think it comes down to the data governance and data quality. I mean, I think what you should be able to do and having multiple views and that sort of thing is extremely limited by actually the data that's getting into the systems, especially further downstream from engineering.
So I wanted to thank everybody. I wanted to say also, this is one of our best attended podcasts. I saw up to 30, 35 people live, so that's awesome. Thank you, everybody. There are lots of questions. I think all my panelists will be very glad after this to jump on LinkedIn and answer some of those questions, because I wasn't able to bring them all back into the conversation. I also wanted to say that we're going to do the next conversation. We're going to talk about why most EBOM, INBOM stuff is still done in Excel and not in an MES or PLM. I think it'll be an interesting one. We'll have a special guest for that as well. Actually, maybe I have 2 special guests. I wanted to get Jeff Noonan of the on the manufacturing side of RISE, a manufacturing hub, and as well as David Schultz, who has a very, very deep experience on the MES side, because we're the future of PLM, but ultimately when it hits manufacturing, PLM and MES are supposed to be able to work together, and I think there's a bit of improvement that is possible in the current state of affairs. I think I see Jim agreeing with me, so that I must be on the right track. So that'll be the next call. It'll be in a couple of weeks. If anybody's in the UK, I'll be in Warwick for Threaded Live on my first AI startup conference up there. And anybody else are going to be viewable in the public in the next couple of weeks? You guys want to pitch anybody conferences coming up for you guys?
Nope.
Ace.
Nope.
Ace.
Ace is the 13th of April. Yep, several of us will be there.
Yeah, looking forward to Threaded Days too.
Sorry, Eric?
Propulsion is May 11th.
There you go.
It's in Denver.
Okay.
I was just going to mention the ProStep EVIP, which is happening in the next couple of weeks in Frankfurt, I think.
Oh, nice. And there's Share PLM coming in the month of May.
That's in May.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys on the next podcast. It'll be some of the regulars and some new ones as usual. Thank you once again, Eric. It was awesome having you. I really loved your perspective. You're welcome back anytime. Everybody cool with Eric coming back sometime?
Yep.
Yeah.
Of course.
Awesome.
I'll be the
Thank you.
fodder in these.
Okay. See you guys the next time on the next podcast.
Thank you, everyone.